Firstly, from a traffic perspective, so I work only a couple of miles away, and every day I have to crawl through traffic to get only a very short distance to work. The roads on St John's in both directions get really, really congested, particularly at peak times, and that has got worse and worse over the 15 years I've lived there. And with 2,000 houses being built and no clear plan or funding for infrastructure, this is going to be even more of an issue.
So we have queuing traffic along St John's Road, we have queuing traffic on Ipswich Road, we have queuing traffic out onto Parsons Heath and onto Harwich Road. We don't have the connections to larger roads like the A12 or the A120, so the traffic is going to have to come through St John's smaller roads. I don't believe that there is sufficient infrastructure in place to build 2,000 homes on the fields and be able to accommodate all the new residents, and 2,000 homes could mean 4,000 extra cars on our local roads, which I don't believe they have capacity to take.
Well, certainly thinking about doctor's services, which my dad is still on the estate, elderly, and an aunt that's elderly on the estate, which is a struggle now. So that's a concern that's essentially overloaded now, so it's not going to get any better. And obviously a knock on to the hospital as well.
First and foremost, I think that the impact of the houses is going to increase what is becoming an increasingly trafficked area. My son talks about the fact that he remembers walking home from school, walking down St John's Road when there was no traffic. He could walk down the middle of the road. Trying to get out of Dunthorne Road onto St John's Road is an absolute nightmare, and it's only going to get worse.
A few months ago there was a three-way traffic light system on just one roundabout in Parsons Heath, and it just gridlocked everything. I was sitting there for 20 minutes. But not only that, when there are roadworks, you don't even see the workers doing the work. So it just kind of sits there for weeks.
So on a personal level, just getting to work in the morning, there's already huge congestion from Ipswich Road along St John's Close, such that I can't even turn right to get out of the road. I have to turn left to get into town, and then I hit the traffic that's been backed up from Harwich Road. So the impact of 2,000 houses and probably 3,000 plus more cars on already congested roads will be a nightmare.
The traffic along St John's Road is appalling at most times now. The school places are hard to get, doctors' appointments, dentists, etc., etc. With all these people coming in, it's just going to be worse and worse and worse.
To be honest, most times of the day there is traffic along St John's Road. The thought of another 2,000 houses and possibly 4,000 cars just isn't worth thinking about.
The traffic congestion, just moving around, it's just going to gridlock everything. It's bad now. The slightest little impact on any road and everything comes to a standstill.
With 2,000 houses, we don't have the infrastructure to cope with it, and I don't believe that the infrastructure will come.
It's just urban sprawl, building on top of estates that are already there with no additional infrastructure, no doctors, no new roads. It's just madness. So think again.
I'm registered at Parsons Heath Medical Practice. Attending that fills me with dread. I arrive at 7:30 trying to beat the queues, only to find there are people waiting there already for the surgery to open at 8 o'clock. I watch in horror as the queues stretch out across the car park, the elderly and sick children all standing waiting. We wait to be seen, no doctor for me. In October 2024, my 94-year-old mother, having received no help from 111 or other means, went to A&E in Colchester Hospital. She waits for 2 days in Majors for a bed to become available, and she's lucky to get that side ward because other people are waiting in corridors to be seen. She gave up all to eat. She died 2 weeks later. The reason was given as old age, but I think if she'd received a care earlier, then maybe she would still be here today. How can you possibly agree to more housing? As far as I'm concerned, you're signing a death warrant if you agree to this development going ahead. The death of wildlife, the death of community, and with the healthcare system as it is, the death of people as well.
So how do you think if planning got permission for 2,000 homes around the back of St John's, how do you think the local infrastructure such as roads and schools would cope with that? And what worries you most about those things?
Well, I think we've got some serious problems, particularly on the transport side of it. The roads already are heavily congested. Now, as part of the local plan, Essex County Council have done some very detailed consultations and works on what they think will happen. And they've worked out that if you spent an extra £400 million on infrastructure, the traffic congestion would only be slightly worse than it is at the present. Now, that's a huge amount of money to spend on no improvement, in fact, getting things worse. And of course, that's assuming that the money is available. We've seen that the government has already cut the funding for widening the A12. They've scrapped that altogether. The previous government scrapped the link road for the garden community. So that means that all 5,500 of the residents from that garden community will be heading in down Glengoe Hill, or worse still for our case, the Bromley Road. And that's just going to hugely increase the traffic congestion before you add on an extra 2,000 homes and all the construction traffic. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. And of course we have poor public transport in this area as well.
And how many years do we think it's going to be until we get that link road?
The link road will only be built after they built 5,500 of the 7,500 properties in there. So we're looking at the projected build rates of that could be anything up to 15 to 20 years.
So we're going to have a problem for many years to come then?
Absolutely. And a lot of our road infrastructure is already constrained by existing housing. So the roundabout at Parsons Heath, for example, you can't increase its size without demolishing a large number of houses. If you start doing that, that puts the point of why you're building houses when you're having to knock down houses to build them. It's just not sensible.
No, absolutely. And St John's Road, both ends is always really congested already, going up to Parsons Heath and towards the Ipswich Road. So that's only just going to get worse.
Absolutely, it will absolutely gridlock those areas. So Colchester got a 20% increase in its housing target. That's a very difficult increase to meet when it's not for local need, it's for people moving out of London. And now that the government has also decided not to widen the A12, we're not going to get the infrastructure that we need to support that growth. So it's all very well building the houses, but if the people can't get from their houses to their jobs, they're going to be no use. Well, what we need, with 450 families currently in temporary accommodation, what we need is social housing for rent. These families are not going to be able to afford to buy properties. If they could, they wouldn't be in temporary accommodation. The fields around Welshwood and Bullockwood will be much more suitable for executive housing. Let's face it, Welshwood Park has got some of the most expensive housing in Colchester already. They're not going to build small terraced units around there. They're going to build large executive style homes. So we'll end up with the wrong type of housing in the wrong place. And that's going to cause a real problem because it's not meeting Colchester's real needs.